Hi, everyone. I'm back with Jon Stewart for a members only follow up to the interview that we just did. If you did not catch that interview first, please do listen to that. It's worth it. It's a little over an hour. Um, Jon has been investigating the infamous, can we say, alien interview video from the 1990s. It was recorded April 27th, I think, 1991.
April
And
22nd,
27th?
22nd, I believe.
22nd, sorry,
Sorry.
and was released to the public in 1997, 6 years later. Uh, Jon has really been investigating this in extreme detail and has, I think, found a lot of connections that do seem to support the authenticity of that video. As crazy as it sounds, that's what it actually looks like to me. I'll be honest about it. But Jon, there were things that we did not get into in the first segment, and I'm just going to let you take over and let's just go.
Yeah, again, folks, thank you again for allowing me to get into a more intimate stage of this interview. Couple of again, what I'm about to tell you is I ask you to use your intelligence to say, why is this happening? And I know I'm self-effacing, so bear with me. What I'm
Why is
about to
what
tell
happening?
you,
Why is what
yeah,
happening?
okay. Why is all of this? Why are why? I'll follow up with the stories.
Mhm.
Why is the Pentagon? Why are these three-letter alphabet agencies hitting the panic button and throwing up red flags and the alarm bells going off over a retired automobile dealer from Chicago? And
Mhm.
And this is what I want you to go through your brain as I talk to you. And I'm not goosing up any story. I've got the email chains to prove this at some point. So let me just go first. Scott Walter of American Unearthed, the History Channel. He has a person that came out to him. He works for the National Air and Space Intelligence Center at Wright Pat, which is that's the Twin Towers. If the UFO world was 9/11, the
U.S.
Wright
Air
Pat
Force
is the
headquarters.
yeah,
Yeah.
headquarters, exactly. So he finally, after about 10, 11 months, got this man to talk with me. Nicest person in the world. If this is who the government is hiring to work on these programs, we are all in safekeeping. I mean that sincerely. He's one of the nicest young men I have ever spoken to. Remember, agent for the National Air and Space. He went by the code name Holden. They all have literary names. Holden from Catcher in the Rye.
Holden Caulfield, right? The character
Yes,
in that
yes,
book.
sir.
Yeah.
And so he said, I saw the film. I, it's two things. It's real or it's listen to me, folks. It's real or it was a government training film. I said, I don't think it's a government training film. There was too many stupid, like, the bean coughing and there was nobody saying when the bean has fluid, take a gauze. And there was just people working, not teaching. And if it was a government film, I would think there would be some moments where viewers were being taught what to do in handling this bean. And then he told me about the biological nature of the eye shade of these beans. I don't know if that was his specialty, but he certainly seemed to went on about that for a long time.
The biological
We
nature of the eye shade
The biological makeup, and I've
or
got the
makeup.
notes, but I don't the biological makeup of the black sunshade, eye shade that goes over so many of these beans' eyes. It's their,
Like what we're
it's
looking at here.
light refraction. And I'm just this is my opinion that he talked so in depth about it that was that his specialty? Was that something that he
Okay.
researched?
Okay.
And he said, "Look, let's break. Let's get back together after Thanksgiving. I'm gonna go ask people in the Pentagon." We calls me back. We talk again. Listen to me. Listen to me, folks. I talked to people at the Pentagon, three people. One person said it's probably a hoax, but two other people said it's blacklisted. Well, what is it? And why is the Pentagon telling these two other people that that's blacklisted?
The
I
film
said,
is
and I don't
blacklisted?
want to. Yeah, that this film, the documentary, everything about this this is what he told me, is you don't mention it, you don't give it credence, you shrug your shoulders that you don't know what people are talking about, you move on. Blacklisted to the 10th degree. His verbatim. And he said, I said, well, I don't want to gotcha him. So I'm like, well, how could one say it's a hoax and two people say that it's blacklisted? Why would a hoax be blacklisted? And he kind of like, well, he didn't want to probably come out and tell me, yes, it's real. He said, but don't think that there's a 1 in 1 million chance that the government could have hoaxed this because we do stagecraft. And Dr. Greer talks about this. He said, I don't think that that's what this is, but, cover your ass.
Mhm.
He said, okay, you want me on your documentary? Give me a list of questions, address it to my CEO, send it to me in PDF. I'll give it to my CEO at Right Pat. We'll see what we can do. And these were hyperbolic questions. When's the first time the United States government officially encountered craft or extraterrestrial off-planet beings? Did Wright Patterson ever have biological off-planet beings in its facility? Those kind of
Might
questions.
as well be swinging
Very
for the fences. There you go.
Yeah, swinging for the fences. If I'm going to travel to Wright Pat with a film crew, I'm getting some answers.
Okay.
So before we leave the second conversation, he goes, I want to tell you something that no one in your community knows, and even not a lot of people in the program knows. And I'm like, and he also gave me a refresher course of when intelligence people come to me, don't let them pass you classified documents and how to ask and how to wade an intelligence person. Are you handing me something classified? I really appreciated that he did that. I kind of had like a 5-minute class. That was
Mm,
really cool.
okay.
He said, I like you. You're a nice guy. I'm going to give you a bone. The new designation, listen to me, folks, the new designation by this government that runs the program, and of course the DIA, but contractors and all these shadow people, the new official designation of extraterrestrials is SABER, the acronym SABER, like a sword, synthetic, astrobiological, extraterrestrial races. He said, John, if you found a general or a colonel, he was speaking tongue in cheek, who you knew were in these programs and you spot them at Starbucks and you said, what are sabers? They'd spit up their coffee. He said, now you can release this to the public.
Can you
That's
can you
fine.
repeat that acronym again? The S stands
Absolutely.
for say it again.
Saber, like a
Yeah.
sword. S is in Sam, A is in Alpha,
Yeah.
here's my pro wrestling brain. B is in boy, E is in Edward, R
Yeah.
is in Romeo.
What do what
Saber.
do they stand for? The S stands for
Synthetic,
synthetic.
astrobiological, extraterrestrial races. He said, take it to the bank. He told me that
Well,
at
synthetic
times.
is almost the most interesting thing in there.
I totally agree. How many times, Richard, have we been told in 20 years that the ones coming, traversing time and traversing space are android, part biologic, part machine, or I don't know,
And the guy who
scientific
told me this
vernacular.
was designated as Holden at Wright-Patterson. He worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base,
Still works at Right Pat,
still works at Wright-Pat.
and there's still an end to this story. But
What is his
yes,
thing that he does? What's his job at
wouldn't
Wright-Patterson?
tell me. He wouldn't tell me.
How did you
I don't know if
find
he's a
him?
secret agent. I don't know if he's a biologist. I
How did
don't
you
know if
bump into
he's
this guy? How did this
Scott
all
Walter of American Unearthed. We are. I want Scott to be part of this documentary because he has so much credibility with people, and he's such a straight shooter. He refuses television programs that want to goose up evidence and plant evidence.
so
He has raised the
Scott was
bar.
able to get you to this person at
Scott
Wright-Patterson?
Walter. This man came to Scott Walter when Scott Walter came out publicly and said, "Can someone like Jon Stewart? Can someone help me? Wade through the extraterrestrial phenomenon." This man came forward. This man has been to Scott's house. Scott has vetted his credentials. Leslie Keene has vetted this man. I put Leslie in touch with this man Holden too. Very important, folks. This is
Okay.
not my imagination. So here it is. I'll call you tomorrow afternoon after you give me the questions. One day goes by. Tuesday, remember the vice admiral in Virginia that ghosted me? 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I call Scott Walter. What's going on? He's ghosting me. Nothing from Scott. I keep texting Holden, and finally, about 2 months later, I said, I've been treated you like a gentleman. You treated me like a gentleman. I want to know today, are you alive? Are you are you in trouble? But most importantly, am I in trouble? And I want to
Mhm.
know today. I had I had enough of the game of the perceived game. And I don't mean to be derogatory because he's still a nice young man. I get this text an hour later. This is my trying to tell you, Richard, and your viewers. This is my description. This nice, intelligent young man. The text is um, because of a person higher than my CEO, so higher than the director at Right Pat, has told him you are to see. This is what the text on Signal app read. You are to cease contact with Jon Stewart. You are to cease and desist any future contact with Jon Stewart. You, Jon Stewart, will not share, copy, duplicate this text message. You will not cut and paste this text message under DOD V7221. All this bizarre intelligence, that's my vernacular, coding, this terse language. In my opinion, somebody wrote it for him and said, hey, you send this to this guy and you send it now and you don't ever talk to him again. And it was boom, boom, boom. Here's the kicker. You, Jon Stewart, he said, you are on a special Pentagon watch list for the nature of your questions that you submitted, your overseas emails. This is what scared me, and the nature of your FOIA request. How does he know what my FOIA request contained? He works at Right Pat. I only sent FOIA requests to the Air Force, the DIA, and the DOD. So obviously, someone at the Pentagon was brought these questions, told him to cut contact, and told him to tell this guy, scare the shit out of him, that
Mhm.
he's on a DOD. Because look at these FOIAs. This is a top secret code that he asked us to do a FOIA on, so on and so forth. So when it said FOIA request, I never told him I sent FOIA request. That scared the hell out of me. That somebody in the Pentagon knows of me. I don't want anyone to know me. I want to be off the
Amazing.
radar screen.
That's fascinating.
So
That's
that yeah, so
fascinating.
yeah. And did he tell them that he told me this? And I've said this to on 3 other podcasts. Why this isn't all over the ufology world like wildfire? I'm not lying to people. I could never make up that an acronym. And was it the fact that they found out he told me that an acronym that sent the whistles? I mean, this text message, Richard, I'm looking you in the eye, was terrifying. My hand was shaking. Even Leslie said, delete it. Do what it said. Don't share it with anyone. Let me go a little bit further. The FOIA request. You can tell I'm a jovial. I like to joke a little bit. That's my personality. I've done eight FOIA requests total. Five with the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. They've had such a good rapport with the FOIA department. One of the ladies, her name is Cheryl. She runs it. She's like, "Oh yeah, this is the alien guy. Yes, 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 we got it. We're working on it." And just
Mhm.
real jovial, real kind-hearted people, helping the alien guy. That was said to me on a DAA phone call. Now I send a FOIA request with the Q94 document. This was put out on the internet about extracting biological material from J Rod. And, or I think it was J Rod, but it was from a bean. And I had found out that you actually have to get signatures on almost like legislation when you do high profile experiments like this. And I want to get to that if I can later on. So I send the FOIA. I follow up 4 weeks later. The guy's name is Andrew at DIA. I'm telling you exactly what his name was. Nice young man. He's like, oh boy. Hmm. And I'm like, what's wrong? It's like, I've never seen this before. That's been basically, by the way, has been told to me in this investigation about 20 times. With you, I've never seen this before. What's going on? He's like, well, your name's on the DIA file FOIA list on our computer without a file next to it. I'm like, yeah, so? He's like, Mr. Stewart, you can't get on the DIA FOIA without a file attached. I'm like, okay, still thinking like, yeah. He's like, well, somebody had to go in and remove it. And I'm like,
Remove the file
holy
that you had
shit. Oh, yeah.
requested.
Leave the
Like,
guy's name and remove the FOIA request file that he requested. So it just gets lost. He gives up. And I'm like, he's like, I'll look into it. I'm like, well, this is strange. And now I'm worried.
So
No, no,
someone
no,
within
no.
the FOIA system
This is
was
I'm
ordered
sorry.
to essentially work against you on this request.
Absolutely.
That's what it seems like.
Very nice. He's like, Mr. Stewart, don't worry about it. Um, I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll give you a call back in an hour. 30 minutes later, I get this mixed up. 30 minutes later, I get an email from DIA. Lo and behold, Richard, they found it. Here's what I have the email. I put it on a video. I can show this to whoever would like to see it. So on and so forth. All the logo, the Department of Defense Intelligence Agency.
Mhm.
It says, due to the nature of your FOIA request, we are now forced to have interdepartment conferences across different. I wish I had the paper here. Across different interdepartment agencies to figure out how we can best serve and facilitate your request. So that again, folks, don't believe anything. Why is the DIA all of a sudden telling me that they now have to have meetings about Jon Stewart and the FOIA request and coffee and donuts and conference tables and Linda Moulton how laughed at this. She's like, this happened to me. She goes, believe me, there was a conference table with about 7 people, and you were the topic of conversation. So, and it says, we won't be able to do this in the requested time. I still haven't gotten an answer. And you will have to give us time due to the lengthy steps that we will have to take to facilitate this request. 20 minutes after this, Andrew calls me from the DIA. Remember happy go lucky, nice Andrew?
Mhm.
Mr. Stewart, it's Andrew, DIA. I'm like, did you have a bad lunch at the cafeteria? What's wrong? Nothing. Just want to let you know that they emailed you the document and it should be self-explanatory and good luck. I'm like, oh, this is another Holden. You're nice to Jon Stewart, and then when the higher up spanks your hand, you treat me like a jerk.
Mhm.
And hung up the phone. Uh, little intimidated to call back, and still haven't had an answer to my FOIA request. It's
So
it's
the
been the
email
same
they
thing with the
sent you was the email, the one that you were just describing, essentially them telling you why it's going to take a long time.
and it
That was
said we will have to have interdepartmental conferences regarding your FOIA request. This I forget the word, not cross generational, this cross department um, follow up will take time
what
and we'll do it in a timely manner. It's
what
bizarre.
specifically was your FOIA, by the way? What were you
The,
asking for
that
specifically?
FOIA, the one they removed was the Q94 109A document that's on the internet that was regarding tissue extraction of an EB to find out about the neuropathy that the EBIN has and why their nerve endings were not regenerating. Can you believe a pro wrestler just said that?
Let's see. Yeah, this is the one that
Oh,
I
maybe
think
I don't have
Linda
COVID
Moulton
brain.
Howe has discussed. Linda's discussed this document. Am I?
Oh, at length. And folks, I want to
At
tell you,
length,
and I didn't say this with you, Richard, when Linda saw those men's names,
yeah.
she wants me to quote her exactly. She said, "You have gold here, GOLD." I said, "Linda, why?" I was in my car when I was talking to her. I've spent a lot of time in my car doing this research, by the way, which was a little humorous. She said, "Jon, I know you're not a ufologist." She said, "You have given us names, us, the ufology world, that have never been used or she called it retreads.
Mhm.
I've never heard these names in 35 years."
Yeah.
He said, and you're telling me that these men can be Wikipedia'd or Googled, and you're telling me that they, at one time were all alive, 3 of them were alive, and 2 of them you have made contact with. I said, that
We're
is
talking about
exactly,
the
she's
names
like,
that we discussed in the first part of
the
this,
men in the viewing gallery. Correct. The men in the
who
viewing
were
gallery watching the beam.
watching
Sorry.
the interview. Yeah,
Sorry. Yes. She
exactly. Yeah.
said, that is gold. She's like, I don't want to make the statement that this trumps the names of the majestic document names. She goes, but if those documents are real, those men are dead. You have living men's names that potentially someone could go to them and say, "Come on," you know. And I
Actually,
said, "Look, I
it's really
emailed one.
quite
I talked
true.
to a widow." Yes,
It's totally
yes,
right. I mean,
yeah,
the MJ12 names, that's important. We want to investigate those. But you're right. These are the names of people who uh, perhaps watched that particular interview with that alien being. And
right,
I just want to point out, emphasize again for anyone who didn't see the first part of this interview, which you should if you haven't. But you have not yet publicly released those names. You have
right.
shown me those names. I have a copy of them, of the ones that you obtained anyway. And you've done very good investigation on those names, seems to
Thank you.
me. Uh, one of those names is extremely famous. He's actually not alive anymore. I don't. Do you want to mention that one or not?
Please don't. No.
Yeah,
But,
then I won't. Yeah.
is he the son of a famous World War II vet, or is that the person?
No,
Or
no.
oh,
He's you have his picture in some of the slides you
oh,
sent me.
oh, yeah, that name. Okay, yes. Oh my, Richard, I'm sorry. Okay. So, another person, um, when the documentary first came out, or before in pre-production, they showed this to I believe it was Jim Delatoso, who was a visual, audio visual guy. And he said, I am seeing a military uniform in the foreground of behind the viewing partition. I see an epaulet with stars, and I see a patch, and another researcher, um, the doctor flashes the torchlight into the viewing gallery for a nanosecond. But when you examine every frame by frame, you see the outline, the lip shine, the nose shine, the forehead shine,
I got the
the
image here.
outline of patches, an image of an African American male in his 50s wearing an army jacket because the Navy doesn't have patches on the right side. You'll see that in the
All
middle.
right. So now in
I
the
did not
center,
discover this.
the center image is the one you're talking about.
The center image is from that underground facility, and you see the lip shine, the nose. It looks, especially when you look at it from afar, if you pull it back from your face, it looks like an African American man in his 50s, and he is clearly wearing an army uniform. And again, that would also prove why there was 27 on the film, that Colin Powell was then going to brief George H. Bush. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to verify that. I'm just saying this is just another one of these bizarreness. Another
Now
thing is, go ahead.
that's Powell on the left, definitely. The one
And
on the
you
right,
think,
you said to me earlier that the one on the right is also Powell in a later time. I don't think
yeah,
I believe that. To me, that guy looks like William Casey, former CIA director. It looks a
okay.
lot like Casey. Does not look like Powell. The nose, the lips, the chin, all that is different.
And this was
Maybe
from another researcher, but just clearly trying to show,
yeah. I
I'm
don't think
assuming that he thought that was Colin. I thought myself that it was just an older picture of Colin, but you're right. Colin's lips in the front left don't really match the ones on the right. But
I think it's
I
two
tell
different
you, the
people.
one on the
Totally
right
different.
matches the one in the center. Maybe that's
Well,
another rabbit hole.
I can't. The one in the center to me is it's kind of difficult. The contrast
Oh, it
I
is.
need to
Yeah,
work
because
it.
it's just a snapshot with a flashlight in this underground facility. So yeah, it's
Uh,
and we've had audio visual people. They can't lighten it. Maybe we'll come across.
I don't think it
I'd
would be
like to do a
Casey.
sketch.
Was Casey
It,
alive in 1991? I think
I
he
don't
was.
know. I think you're sending me down a rabbit hole
He
again.
was retired.
I'm gonna Google him too.
Bill Casey, I mean, Bill Casey was very, very significant, obviously. He was Reagan's director of CIA. And I think he was probably still alive in 91. He would have been officially retired, I think. That looks like William Casey to me on the right. Definitely, that's obviously Colin Powell on the left.
That you That's
So
William Casey on the right. You're right. Wow. Can
maybe
you
that would be,
imagine if we can prove that equals
well, they're both
Jesus?
long
I'm
gone.
looking at
Casey.
William Casey's photo from Google.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that picture on the right is
he looks like a white African American man. Maybe I hope I'm being politically. He looks,
you're good.
oh, you know what I'm saying.
No, right,
I
right.
did that
That's
politically
right.
correct. Yeah, he
Exactly.
looks. Yeah. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Geez.
So I
You
think
see
there
what
might be
happens
truth in that.
when you bring all this information out? This is what's been happening with this investigation.
Yeah.
Somebody finds something that we didn't, or
I
boy,
can't
that's
tell
really
the one in
interesting.
the middle. It's hard for me to make it out. But anyway, so your
Well,
point
Richard, let me ask you one
was
question. Would William Casey have ever worn an army uniform? Because this
no, I don't think
person had,
so. No,
okay, well then
not no.
it's not William Casey, because this person clearly has stars on the shoulder, on the epaulette, and it's got like an Army Ranger little crest patch, and then
I
the
think
main
I've
patch.
got not here. I have a bunch of pictures here. I'm trying to find the
Oh,
one
but we go back to that other one with the blue and the black. You'll see, yeah, to the left, you'll see that's the shoulder of the military person.
on the okay, and the blue. The blue is the original, of course, the VHS, and the one on the right is what was redone by Rocket Pictures when it was released.
Right.
Well, there was a couple of things out, like this guy here on the right, Edward Schaefer. We talked about in the
Yes.
first section. Schaefer did work for underneath Powell. He was very close to Powell during this
Right.
time,
Yep.
and you actually had him identified as being there,
He
right?
was on the list, folks.
He was on the list.
It's the
Yeah,
only name I'm releasing because
yeah, the
he's
only name.
deceased.
Then he worked directly with Powell, and
Right.
then you
Can
had
you
an
can you
image.
imagine me, Richard, getting these photos, or getting these names, seeing Admiral Schieffer's name and photo on my hand was shaking.
The
It
guy
was
who
like
gave
I
you
was
all those
peering
names.
into like classified stuff. I can't
You had this
describe
was
it.
your DIA connection.
Correct.
You had a high
Correct.
level, you had a very well-placed person in DIA who
Correct.
gave you the list of those individuals, including Schaefer. I just want to come back to this picture of Powell here. There's Colin Powell, of course. So what's going on here with the epaulets or the patch
Well,
rather?
we were just, that's what the patch would have been on the right side. One researcher said, "Oh, it's 4 stars. I see an eagle, but looking the other way, like a Polish eagle on Polish armed services."
I want to go back to
I don't know if I did not give you that picture. It's a blow up of the shoulder patch,
okay, but
and there's a little white crescent above the main patch on the right shoulder, and I researched that, trying to be a good investigator, and that would have been like airborne rangers, and then your main division patch, I believe.
okay,
But I don't see stars. I see the spread eagle, but the eagle looking towards the alien, not the way the US Army would have it, looking towards the other way. So
okay. So
very confusing stuff.
gotcha. So just to recap, part of the video, which I don't have that here, shows what looks like might be the insignia of the stars, or it might be like an eagle, and
But
it's
eagle.
difficult to
Yes,
tell.
correct.
All right, so the
And we
stars
will
might
dive in
just
that
be
with
a
the
dead end.
documentary when we have thousands of dollars to give,
Yeah,
a high-tech research company to
yeah, I
really
got you.
do that deep dive, along with
Fair
a
enough.
expert in military insignias and stuff. We've already got that groundwork set up to go once we get the money.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Hey, look,
I know
I'm
it's
going to keep this.
exasperating.
We're going to keep this short for now. I think when so you got a book coming out, but your book's not on this. Your book is
No,
on the
no,
other Roswell. It's
no,
on Roswell.
no.
You're doing all these projects. So you're doing this whole deep dive. You're doing a whole different deep dive on Roswell. I'm going to show folks your book, which we did at the end of the first part. And where the heck do I have that?
I really hope people appreciate that I kept my nose out of this
There we
book,
go.
as far as I'm telling you folks, I just simply got the 6 accounts for the past 70 years about the second Roswell crash. I make a very light statement of who I think is probably the most factual, and then I wish everybody good luck
All
and
right.
help me
Yeah, good.
research it on
Put it
your own.
together.
But I used colorful descriptive prose. So because Richard, you and I have talked about this, folks. A lot of research with extraterrestrials is a lot of sand, a lot of sun, a lot of shiny metal. It's a lot of documents. It's a lot of redactions. It's I made 300 phone calls where no one picked up the phone, and so I used colorful prose when describing each situation leading into the witness accounts, and I hope people appreciate that. I hope people enjoy it. It's
Yeah.
not going to be very expensive, and and it's my first book ever,
Yeah,
and I hope people
awesome.
like it.
So the book will be out at the end of November. I think you
November
said
28th. Yes,
November
November
28th.
28th. Yep.
Relating to the your work though on this film, the alien
Yes.
interview film. So in the first part of our interview, you basically gave me the impression that you're kind of stuck because you're kind of run out of gas or run out of money, and I don't know where this is going to go. Like, is this investigation done? How are you going? Are you going to resolve this in any way? Is there going to be a published version of this, whether in film or in book form or whatever?
You can, I think people can tell I speak my talk, I walk my talk. I think that's why military people have come out to me and
Mhm.
trusted me. And I've kept my sources quiet, and I will, and I walk my talk. You will see a documentary explaining all of this, names, who Victor is, the whole story of Victor coming to the rocket pictures even.
Okay. So
You
is
are
this
going
going
to
to be in
see a
a
complete.
film, a documentary, or are you going to write
Yes,
this as a book?
that's going to be the docu-series that is being actively this week
Yeah.
shopped to networks. I can say that
Okay.
for a fact. You will also see the book in book form, with other extra stories. You
Good.
will also see a documentary, very inexpensively produced documentary. My agent, your agent, Sean West, is going to be in
Mm.
it. A lot of other people of the entire journey of trying to get Hollywood to give me the money to finish this, dealing with the government, dealing with all of these other stories. Leslie Keene and Holden, the special agent, meeting behind my back, and all of this cloak and dagger. That's called the bird dog because you can roll your eyes, but I was told that members of the Avery who I have communicated with, this alleged intelligence group called the Avery. They all have code names of birds, whether you believe this or not. But one of them, tongue in cheek, said, "You're our bird dog." He's like, "Yeah, we're all birds, and you're the dog that's come along, and you've shook the tree, you've shook the roost. We're all flapping around now because you're sniffing
Oh,
around.
one of them said
You're a
that to you?
bird dog." So the name of the book that talks about Hollywood, the Avery, all these backstories is called Codename Bird Dog,
Yeah.
which is me.
Very cool. So
Yeah,
the
it's very
aviary,
cool.
just so people understand, because this is something I do know a bit about,
Okay.
was an informal group of guys in the intelligence community back in the 1980s.
Right.
Uh, a lot of them ended up working for Robert Bigelow. So one of them was Hal Puthoff. One of them was Kit Green. One of them was Ron Pandolfi. There's a whole bunch. Um, Scott
What do I have
Jones.
stories. I have stories
All
if
of
you got
these
a minute.
people. Yeah, I mean
So,
Robert Collins
yeah,
and they all talk to each other, and they John Alexander,
John Alexander, who
all
hollered at
about
me.
extraterrestrials, all about aliens, all through the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
Uh,
yes,
this very strong sense that I always had about them is that it was kind of like a non-official, informal kind of
correct.
personal interest. Of course, all or at least most of them had very significant security clearances, so
Right.
they knew and know a lot. Uh, but anyway, I think it was Bill Moore and who was he talking to? Maybe Jamie Chandere, and they were talking about these people. And it was for Moore, it was so cloak and dagger. He said when he talked to Chandere about these guys on the phone, he gave them those names. He actually gave them all bird names. So I think it was
Correct.
Bill Moore, the researcher, who's still alive, who dubbed them the aviary. That wasn't a name they gave themselves. It was a
I
nickname Moore
understand.
gave it.
I understand that. That's what the guy said. He's like, they call us the Avery. You're our bird dog. So yeah, he never said to me, "I'm Woodpecker." You know that? No. Yeah. I agree with you. It was,
Yeah,
and
so it was
even Richard
Moore.
Doty told me this. He's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, people say I'm Falcon, but then they also tell me." And he's like, "No, John, we're real. We do meet." But people have given us these bird names, and
right.
Doty laughed at the bird dog thing. And I just want to tell people that I have emailed Hal Puthoff several times.
Yeah.
I've emailed Kit Green, very nice to me, just said he couldn't help me. I've stalked Tom Kelleher, Bigelow's assistant, to the point where I was afraid he was going to call the Las Vegas police. It's just trying to get just trying to get a meeting with Bigelow. But I have communicated, called John Alexander, got hollered at by him. So yeah, so I have reached out to these venerated people
Yeah.
of the ufology world, like Putoff and Kit Green, and they
Oh,
were
yeah.
very respectful to me, and I likewise. And I just appreciate them just opening my email and writing me back some words of encouragement and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really nice.
Very nice. All right, John. Well, listen, I really appreciate the time that you've given for both of these interviews, and I have a feeling that the majority of people are really going to be very positive about what you've had to say. I guarantee there's always going to be someone who's like, "Can't believe you're talking about a hoax like this."
Yeah.
But I'm personally very glad that you're investigating this. You are kind of like the bird dog. You're going out there, you're taking the hits, but you're also going to get the glory if this ends up being
Mm,
the real deal, which honestly, I'm just going to say, to me, it looks like it is. It looks like
yeah.
it's the real deal. You've done enough background investigation on this. You're finding a lot of smoke, and I think there's some fire.
Yes.
It's my personal
Yes.
opinion.
That's exactly the way I would sum it up. Thank you.
That's the way it looks like to me. And if it turns out not to be the case, well, then you know what? No shame in being wrong, but I think that
No,
you're
no.
doing, yeah, you're doing this in good faith, and I think
Yep.
you're turning up some information. So that's what we want. That's the
Yep.
point of all of us. I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank
So
you.
so you don't have a website, but any links you want me to provide, I will do it. And did you want to mention your email address in this?
Email again is John Allen Stewart at AOL.com, spelled JONALANSTEWART at AOL.com. You can go to my non-monetized YouTube channel, which has got some pretty interesting videos, some not. It's a hunting Victor documentary. That's what I call the documentary. I have been told that that's not what they want to call it as they're shopping this to networks this week. I don't care what they call it, but
Yeah.
that's the name of the YouTube channel. That'll be the
Yep.
name of my book when that
Okay.
comes out too.
Hunting
And
Victor.
I can't finish the book until the whole story's finished. So
Well, I'll link for your YouTube channel,
okay,
and you
great,
got your email out there, so that's good too.
great.
So, wow, thank you very, very much. Very grateful, and I want to thank all the listeners, viewers, for sticking with us this long. We've been talking for quite a while. Very
Yeah.
glad.
Thank you to them also, and the UFO community has been great. I am not saying that to be melodramatic or ham-handed. The UFO community, from the researchers to the interested viewers and people that want to get involved, have been absolutely just over the top gracious with me, and
Wonderful.
I think you can hear in my voice. I appreciate that very much.
I'm very glad to hear that as well. Actually,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you again, John. And it's just been a pleasure. And I definitely believe and hope that we're going to talk again.
Thanks, Richard.
All right. Thank you.